Chapter 281 C Grade Part 2 While Lu Shu was strolling in the forest, he suddenly received a large sum of distress values. He did not care what the rest thought, but in the future, he would just say that he got lost while chasing the cheetah, which fulfills his portrayed image since he joined them: crazy, well-abled, experienced and extremely daring. To be honest, Lu Shu found acting alone more enjoyable, as when he followed the team, he could only passively wait for animals to approach them, but since he left, it was different. He could attack them. Whenever he saw an animal, he would immediately pull out his spear, subdue it, then pull out a tooth. This was his set of standard actions. The amount of distress values Lu Shu had with him were not just enough to light up 7 stars. After another few more days of activities, he could definitely make the first star of the 3rd level of Nebula. What a great feeling! He found a giant tree and sat down, beginning to trade for celestial fruits. As he was with the group that few days, he did not have the opportunity to break through the 2nd level of Nebula. It was as uncomfortable as being unable to redeem a $5 million worth lottery. 320,000 distress values was equivalent to 320 celestial fruits. Looking back, the 1st level of Nebula begun with only single-digit worth of celestial fruits, yet the first Nebula on the 2nd level already needed 10 of them. Then would the 3rd level of Nebula have a starting requirement of 100? If it was so, then he really needed to continue sourcing for a greater supply, as even if he could have enough for the 3rd level, what about the 4th and higher levels? He also did not know if anyone could produce more than 1,000 distress values. If it was not possible, then he had to think of something to increase the number of people. Lu Shu happily ate each and every one of his celestial fruits. 320 celestial fruits. The only time Lu Shu ate heartily was last year when he brought Lu Xiaoyu to a shopping mall basement to eat at a conveyor belt hot pot buffet. He felt that buffets were the best for Lu Xiaoyu and himself. However, it cost the $49 per person, and since then, they had never been there again as they felt it was too expensive. When they ate and left, the cashier looked at them oddly. At that time, to some people $49 do not mean much, but to Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu, it was their entire week's food allowance. Recalling about their tough times, the corner of Lu Shu's lips rose to a smile, thinking where Lu Xiaoyu was. After eating 320 celestial fruits, they will evolve into celestial energy, gather in Lu Shu's body like in a galaxy, then be received by the celestial map. As though a black hole appeared in the galaxy, all the stars would be spiraled into the hole. Lu Shu watched the 7th star slowly brightened up as the celestial energy in him was activated once more. If the day before he could only use the corpse of the dog 7 to 8 times, then at that moment, he definitely could use it at least 17 to 18 times, and for a longer time. At that moment, Lu Shu finally became a C-grade powerful metahuman, no longer a fake one but a real C-grade powerful metahuman. However, Lu Shu waited for some time but still felt as though something was still missing from the celestial map. Something was not right. Why was it unlike the 1st level? All the stars surrounded the 7th star while it became a stellar and the others became planets, then the 7th star condensed into the sword of 7 souls of instinct. It did not make sense that after the 1st level, the 2nd level would be different. Lu Shu chose not to believe something was amiss. He redeemed another 10 celestial fruits worth of celestial energy, but the celestial energy from these fruits did not help him open the 3rd level. He only entered the celestial map and floated around without entering any nebula. Lu Shu was shocked. He always thought he would not meet any setbacks throughout his practicing journey, and he had to do was eat some fruits. In the end, he reached a bottleneck at the 2nd level of Nebula and was entirely clueless. Where did this bottleneck come from? How should he overcome it? He had no clue. Lu Shu tried very hard to recall the situation when he broke through the 1st level of Nebula, as he wanted to find out what he was missing, but after trying for an hour, there was no reaction. Oh no! Would he be stuck at the 2nd level of Nebula? Suddenly, crystal-like light rays shone around him. Lu Shu was shocked and wondered if the celestial was undergoing some changes. In the end, he looked towards his side and saw the weird trees beside him brighten. What was going on? He stood up and admired these weird trees in detail. When Lu Shu realized that they would not attack him, he even thought that these trees were quite lovable and beautiful. Undeniably, with these weird trees shining, the forest in the night was brighter than during the day. If only these weird trees could provide him with distress values, how great would that be? His previous aim of reaching A grade no longer seemed practical as he was stuck at the second level, and his second sword of 7 souls of instinct was also missing. Lu Shu laughed bitterly. This was the drawback of acting alone, as he had no previous experience to refer to. He continued to walk into the forest. Lu Shu felt that the only way to console himself at that point in time was a bunch of little animals gathered at an empty ground. In the end, after walking for what seemed like half a day, he did not see a single empty ground. Lu Shu was depressed. Just then, Lu Shu suddenly heard some rustling sound from behind which seemed to be left behind by animals moving in the forest. Lu Shu was surprised at what was happening. Was there really an animal in the forest that could pass through it alone at night? An animal with no magical energy? He climbed up a tall tree quietly, hid within the dense branches and observed the situation below him. Initially, he was nervous, but when he saw what walked into his sight, he froze completely. It was a walking tattered linen cloth with gold thread sewn on it. Lu Shu was puzzled. Wasn't that Li Dian's treasure? The tattered linen cloth wrapped around the person under the tree. As it was not considered big, the person could only squat down and slowly adjust it, so at first glance, it looked like a walking tattered linen cloth. Lu Shu suddenly recalled the unique characteristics of this cloth. Was it the ability to isolate magical energy? Lu Shu did not know to cry or to laugh, as who knew this tattered linen cloth could be so useful in the relics, as it could hide people from the weird trees. He suddenly roared ferociously, "Who is it that invaded my enchanted forest?" He saw the cloth shiver intensely. From Li Dian's Distress, plus 999. Chapter 282, A Sleek Old Man. Tree Demon, I have no intention of invading. It is just that this forest is too big. I have no idea which areas belong to you, Tree Demon. Spare me, Tree Demon. Li Dian initially still thought he was too lucky, as when they were trapped in the tent, Liang Che managed to kill 2 fighters sent by the heavenly networks while they were unprepared. He and Liang Che then escaped and unknowingly entered the relics. After entering the forest, Li Dian had been wandering around aimlessly, slowly exploring it. When he saw an animal, he escaped. At night, he surprisingly realized that this devilish forest stopped attacking him when he put on the tattered linen cloth. Initially, he treated the cloth just as an armor, but after putting it on, he was as good as invisible. However, the happiness did not last long, as he had just bumped into a tree spirit. It was not as though Li Dian had not seen one in the movie, a Chinese ghost story. In the movie, Joey Wang was his lover in his dreams. How great would it be if Xiao Qian was there? As in the movie, Xiao Qian should appear first, but why did he immediately had to face an old tree spirit? They are not following the script. How? It was nervous to be waiting. Inside, Lu Shu knew that the old tree spirit was not the one in the movie, as how would the relics have the same storyline as a folklore? This old spirit was not that old spirit. Lu Shu sneered on the tree, "You don't know which area belongs to me? The entire forest belongs to me." Li Dian almost vomited blood on the spot. "Spare me, madam. Spare me, madam." From Li Dian's Distress, plus 999. Lu Shu said loudly, "You have the scent of fire. What is going on? Are you thinking of burning down my forest?" No, I used to have a companion who has the power to control fire. I must have gotten the scent of fire from him. Where is he? Lu Shu asked. I have no idea. We split up once we arrived. Lu Shu nodded. It seemed like Liang Che had really entered the relics, and the so-called scent of fire on Li Dian was extremely faint. He just wanted to hear from Li Dian if Liang Che also entered the relics. Although this Li Dian was a bit ruthless, his sins were barely comparable to Liang Che's. If Li Dian was a conman, then Liang Che would be an unscrupulous felony. Lu Shu hesitated for a bit. Why can't I feel any magical energy on you? Where did this tattered linen cloth come from? This was handed down by my ancestors, Lu Shu said nervously. All right, I am sleepy already. Come forward and serve me, Lu Shu said happily. I have weak kidneys since young, premature ejaculation, and extremely rough skin texture. Tree demon, why don't you let me off, said Li Dian as he crouched on the ground in fear. From Li Dian's distress, plus 999. Sure, since Xiao Qian has escaped, I shall marry you to the old demon of Montenegro to make up for the numbers, said Lu Shu coldly. Li Dian's body on the ground shivered as he thought, what was the tree demon up to? Him? Marrying the old demon of Montenegro? From Li Dian's distress, plus 999. He thought the old demon of Montenegro only wanted women. An old man like him having to be married off to the old demon of Montenegro? The thought of it made Li Dian shiver in fear. The main point was, this was really that tree demon. Actually, Li Dian was very cautious. At that point in time, he had started suspecting if someone was pulling a prank on him, and he wanted to look up to see who was up there, but the moment he lifted the tattered cloth, the trees could sense his magical energy and started to creep towards him. That scene was so traumatizing that Li Dian hurriedly covered his head with cloth once more. He still questioned if it was the tree demon up there. If it was not him, then there was a problem he could not figure out. Did that person up there also have the ability to conceal his magical energy? That would be on another level. Li Dian himself was still squatting on the ground, and yet he had already jumped up a tree. At that moment, Li Dian was still unsure and his fear remained. From Li Dian's distress, plus 999. From now on, answer all my questions, Lu Shu said. What is your name? Liang Che. Lu Shu paused for a while. How old are you? 25. Lu Shu snickered. What a sleek old man. From his voice, he did not seem 25. He leisurely rolled his fingertips on the tree branch. Where's your identification card? Throw it out for me to have a look. Li Dian panicked and was appalled that the tree demon even knew what an identification card was. Did he want the first or second generation card? Must as well he made a photocopy for him? From Li Dian's distress, plus 513. Lu Shu could no longer hold his laughter. He did not have many tree demon tricks up to his sleeves, so he figured that Li Dian would realize it sooner or later. It was about time he stopped. By then, Li Dian was extremely sure that it was a human being above him. He almost peed in his pants. If Li Dian knew who that person was, he would definitely slaughter him. However, Li Dian clearly knew that even if that person was a human being, he might not be able to defeat him. After all, they were on different levels. While that person was having fun on the trees until Li Dian was afraid, he himself did not even dare to raise his head. If not for the tattered linen cloth covering him, he would have died a long time ago. Lu Shu happily looked at Li Dian and asked demandingly, what do you think will happen if I snatch this piece of tattered cloth from you? Hero. What do you exactly want? Li Dian was petrified. Would he be able to survive without the cloth? Li Dian crouched on the ground and used the cloth to wrap around his head, then resorted to crawling in order to escape. He really wanted to see if that person above him could really remain unscathed in this forest. In the end, regardless of where he went, the person above him followed closely. The forest was then filled with sounds of fluent leaping. Li Dian wanted to go all out just to see who was the person above him who was making a fool out of him, but before he could, the tree branches inched towards him, resulting in him quickly hiding under the cloth again. Lu Shu sat on the tree branches shaking his legs and laughed as he watched how Li Dian wanted to lift his head but did not dare to. Why don't you dare to raise your head and look at me? Have you lost your spirit or am I not seductive enough? From Li Dian's distress, plus 678. Quickly throw out your identification card, Lu Shu said as he did not want to waste more time with him. Li Dian obediently took out his identification card and left it on the ground right beside him, as he thought that perhaps he would be able to see who that person was if he came down to pick it up. However, before he could react, Lu Shu used the corpse of the dog in midair to seize Li Dian's identification card swiftly. Lu Shu saw the information on the card: Li Guowei, 32 years old, address is Xiaozhou. Wow, this old man even used a fake identification card. Chapter 283, Seizing the Compass, Part 1. In the era when magical energy just started recovering, it was rare to see anyone with the ability to control swords. To wandering people with ambiguous identities like Li Dian, they had only heard of such abilities in legends. Therefore, when Lu Shu used the corpse of the dog to pick his identification card, Li Dian saw how a sword flew past in a blink of an eye and thought in shock. It had not been easy for him to survive in the relics, and why did he have to meet an expert of C-grade or higher? Then again, were all C-grade experts of the heavenly networks so free that they could act as a tree demon in the middle of the night? Regardless, Li Dian had already lost all hope. Initially, he even suspected if that person had some special abilities to avoid all the weird tree and perhaps was not too strong. After all, the expert was definitely now an amateur. Li Dian no longer thought so. A C-grade expert who could control a sword could kill him anytime. Actually, Lu Shu did not dislike Li Dian too much. If it was not for the coincidental meeting, Lu Shu would have neglected this person's existence quickly as he did not know who he was. Although the head-turning calabash was initially used to cheat him, it coincidentally matched perfectly with Lu Shu's ability to expose real names. This person was different from Liang Che. Liang Che was shameless and evil and disrespectful to life, but Li Dian was not. He was simply a conman who was trying very hard to survive. Not that Lu Shu sympathized with him, as what sympathy was there for someone who cheats and steals? It was just that he did not deserve to be executed. All right, I am not some evil tree, I won't take your life, Lu Shu said laughingly. Spare the fact that this guy used the tattered linen cloth to conceal his identity. It was also not of much use to Lu Shu, so he decided not to snatch it. However, he was curious what means did Li Dian use to search for the Sun Moon Mountain's treasures. He himself was of sensory type. Was Li Dian of sensory type too? Li Dian was about to thank the tree demon for sparing his life, but then Lu Shu said, "But, other than this piece of tattered cloth, what other treasures do you have on you? Take them all out. One item in exchange for your life. That isn't too much, right?" From Li Dian's distress, plus 555. Li Dian whimpered, "I really don't have any other treasure, only this one." What a joke. Who would believe this guy who had been lying all these while? Even his whimpering sounded fake. How could he thought that he could deceive this best actor, tree demon? Oh, Lu Shu nodded his head while sitting on the tree. "If you don't hand any over, I will take this tattered cloth. I suddenly remember I have another piece of treasure passed down by my ancestors." Li Dian clearly knew that under such threatening circumstances, he had no room for negotiations. Shivering, he took out a palm-sized geomantic compass from his clothes and threw it out. Li Dian cherished his life a lot as he understood that once he was dead, it was useless to have any treasure. To be honest, based on Lu Shu's ability, it was clear that he could easily kill him then take away all his things. Li Dian already felt very lucky that Lu Shu was willing to spare his life. It was common in the gray world to have incidents of killing then theft. The national black market had several secrets for some time, but that was where the largest criminals hung out. To enter, one needed 3 people's recommendation, and even so, it was unpredictable if he could make it out alive whenever he went there to purchase items. Therefore, he chose to search for treasure in this small-scale black market in Shijing City. Lu Shu did not hurriedly pick up the compass but instead asked happily, "When you know my true identity, will you take revenge?" This scared Li Dian, who quickly covered himself totally with the linen cloth. "I don't know your identity, I really don't. Please let me off." "How do you not know my identity?" Lu Shu was not happy. Li Dian was confused. "When did I know your identity?" "I am yours truly, the tree demon." From Li Dian's distress, plus 999. Lu Shu jumped down from the tree and picked up the compass. "What is this for?" "The direction the needle points to is where magical energy is the most concentrated within a radius of 500 meters. Li Dian explained while shivering beneath the tattered linen cloth as he and Lu Shu were too close and he feared Lu Shu would kill him. Lu Shu held the compass and felt it was quite heavy. It seemed like Li Dian used it to find the sun-moon magic mirror. He looked at the compass needle and it really was pointing towards where he thought was the core of the relics. This thing was quite useful. With it, at least Lu Shu did not have to waste energy figuring directions out. After all, humans sometimes are unable to clearly sense the minute changes of magical energy in the relics. This could save him some trouble. Lu Shu had no intention to waste more time on Li Dian as he had to continue to look for more animals. Honestly, although Li Dian provided him with a large amount of distress values, the total energy was incomparable to the animals. Li Dian hid under the cloth for a while and did not hear anything for a while. He slowly lifted it slightly to peek out and realized that the tree demon had disappeared without a trace. Having been in the underworld for so many years, Li Dian had never felt so wronged. What rubbish that it was the best era. Obviously, the rule that only the strongest in the world survives had been reinforced. Lu Shu walked and admired the compass like a child who found a new toy. He could be in awe with it for quite a while. Just then, he suddenly saw the distress value in the system's back-end and froze. From Lu Xiaoyu's distress, plus 13, Lu Shu, where are you? From Lu Xiaoyu's distress, plus 21, why haven't you come for me? From Lu Xiaoyu's distress, plus 19, Chen Zuan, this fatty, is not reliable. Distress values with captions appeared again. Lu Shu did not know why Lu Xiaoyu was so special to him. Perhaps it was due to their cultivation technique. After all, this celestial map and system had too many aspects for exploration. Lu Shu was happy when he saw these distress values, as to say he was not bored wandering around the forest was a lie. Being alone in the forest and not knowing what he would encounter next, he also did not know where he would ultimately end up. To receive Lu Xiaoyu's news then, Lu Shu felt fortunate as in this lonely yet turbulent world, there was someone who still thought about him. This sort of feeling was amazing. He had no clue as to where Lu Xiaoyu was and did not know where to start as he only knew that she was with Chen Zuan and was safe. That was all that mattered. Chapter 284, The Sudden Battle, Part 2. Before Lu Shu finished viewing Lu Xiaoyu's distress values, a whole bunch of other records flooded the screen. From Chen Zuan's distress, plus 101. From Chen Zuan's distress, plus 199. From Chen Zuan's distress, plus 210. Lu Shu was dumbstruck and started to mourn for Chen Zuan. Hey, Xiaoyu, if there aren't any toilets in this huge forest, where else can I pee besides on the tree? Chen Zuan felt like weeping as he sat on the ground. Lu Xiaoyu shouted angrily, if not for you, I would have found Lu Shu a long time ago. It's all your fault. Lu Xiaoyu spent the entire day looking for Lu Shu. When she found Chen Zuan, she was enraged, but that was not a time to blame him. She quickly led her troop of animals to return to the original route in hope of finding Lu Shu's scent. Upon glancing at the obedient pile of beasts beside him swallow their saliva, Chen Zuan asked quietly, Xiaoyu, are you and Lu Shu blood siblings? Why are both of you so fierce? No, Lu Xiaoyu sat on Naughty Pig which was lying on the ground and had already fallen asleep. Chen Zuan said, oh, The two of you have such a good relationship, but I am very curious as to why Lu Shu could bear to let you enter the relics at such a young age. Lu Xiaoyu looked sideways at Chen Zuan and laughed coldly. If you can enter it, why can't I? From Chen Zuan's distress. What about me? Chen Zuan's originally calm face turned flushed. I am very strong too. You wish, Lu Xiaoyu scorned. What do you mean you wish? Chen Zuan was really upset, causing the naughty pig to open its eyes and stare at him, snorting heavily. Chen Zuan's aggression faded quickly, knowing that he might not be able to defeat the pig. Chen Zuan hurriedly changed the topic. Xiaoyu, are you worried that Lu Shu is in danger? He is only of E grade, yet he is already moving around in this forest alone. It is not so simple in this forest. Compared to the data which I got regarding the Beimang relics, the overall strength of this Salt Lake relic is on a higher level. Lu Shu will not be in danger, Lu Xiaoyu assured. On the one hand, Lu Xiaoyu knew that Lu Shu's ability was not only of the E grade, and on the other hand, her faith in the inexplicable. Lu Xiaoyu had the impression that Lu Shu was focused and detailed, and she could not remember any task that he could not accomplish. Having heard Lu Xiaoyu's words, Chen Zuan paused. He could not continue the conversation. Lu Xiaoyu had no intention of discussing Lu Shu's safety as she was confident that Lu Shu would not be in danger. However, Chen Zuan did not know where Xiaoyu gained such confidence. But the danger of the relics does not lie only in the relics themselves, as being wary of others is crucial as well. I know of a C-grade spy who not only stole the Matrix Eye but also killed many people, Chen Zuan said. I will kill whoever kills Lu Shu, Lu Xiaoyu said as a violent aura of bloodlust emanated from this 10-year-old girl. Chen Zuan felt that this side of Lu Xiaoyu was quite cute, a contrasting kind of cuteness. Lu Xiaoyu turned and stared at him. You don't believe me? Chen Zuan noticed that Naughty Pig started staring at him again and explained hurriedly. I believe you, I believe you. How extraordinary. To be unable to defeat a little girl. From Chen Zuan's distress, +101. Lu Xiaoyu looked up at the sky as she laid on the wide, thick back of her pig, preparing to sleep. Hurry up and sleep. We have to continue the search for Lu Shu once the sun rises. If we cannot find him by tomorrow, I'll kill you as a sacrifice. Chen Zuan was sipping on his fresh water but spat it all out upon hearing these words. What did she mean by sacrifice? Actually, Chen Zuan suddenly that after Lu Xiaoyu left Lu Shu, she became less constrained and had a more murderous aura. Such a feeling was as though a little demon had kept its true nature tamed because of certain people and happenings. Upon their disappearance, it slowly revealed its natural behavior. However, he did not know that Lu Shu meant the whole world to Lu Xiaoyu. Without Lu Shu, everything else in the world would lose its meaning. The reason she caught the naughty pig and big cat was not really for self-protection, but was in the hope of earning Lu Shu's recognition, as she wanted to prove that she could fight alongside him during battle. Lu Xiaoyu had also realized that Chen Zuan was like a chatterbox, as though he could be suffocated from shutting his mouth for a moment. Chen Zuan used his arms as a pillow and laid on the empty ground. Xiaoyu, don't you think I can find chances to gain credit in this relic, and even if I don't, there's still Lu Shu, who would definitely be lieutenant by then. Influenced by Lu Xiaoyu, Chen Zuan's confidence in Lu Shu started to grow by 100 times. When that time comes, the rank of those players in the capital will not be as high as mine, and there will definitely be some young infatuated women who would want me, but they are not important. The most important is, I wonder if Su Wenqin and Du Xueme would look at me in a different light? If they both like me, which one of them should I take on a date? What a tough decision. From the tall, mighty body of the naughty pig came a cold laughter from Xiaoyu. Keep smirking, you E-grade player. So what if I am E-grade? Am I not human just because I am E-grade? Chen Zuan raged. From Chen Zuan's distress, +555. Be quiet and sleep. Lu Shu walked between the mountains and the forest. Since the weird trees were not threatening, climbing over mountains was not difficult. Throughout the journey, judging by his fitness standards, there was no need to find the easier path and he could just follow his compass directly. However, upon climbing the Wei mountain and overlooking the valley, he suddenly saw that the trees from far ahead had died and collapsed. The beauty of the forest contrasted with the sudden veil of darkness in the distance, like a bright-lit city that blacked out in a flash. Faintly, Lu Shu could even hear rumbling coming from the forest far ahead. It was soft only because of how far away it was. Lu Shu was shocked and was puzzled at what happened. This was despite him being strong enough after lighting the 7th star and reaching the limit of an awakened C-grade powerful metahuman. Even though the star system did not rotate, his growth and strength was not delayed. Despite this, to destroy such a large area of forest was very difficult, if not impossible, unless he progressed to the next level. Could it be that Chen Bailey was over there? But who was battling with him? Chapter 285, Chen Bailey is injured. Part 3. A battle between B-grade fighters was unfolding beneath Lu Shu's eyes, but he was too far away and hence could not see what was happening clearly. If not because these forests were as bright as neon lights, he would not even have noticed the entire collapsed forest. This was the difference, Lu Shu sighed. While other Heavenly Networks fighters and Daoyuan class students had to hide in the empty grounds, the B-grade experts were able to easily wipe out entire batches of the weird trees. Lu Shu began to run in that direction as he did not want to miss this first opportunity to watch B-grade experts battle. This was the first time Lu Shu used all his strength to sprint since he reached C-grade. The fallen leaves on the ground were thrown into the hair behind Lu Shu. Lu Shu did not even had to push the branches in his way as he used the celestial cloak to cover himself. The few branches that he ran into, however, were not capable of injuring him. Just then, Lu Shu suddenly came across an empty ground where a dozen animals was gathered at. The animals were alerted and looked curiously at the lone human who had appeared at an unimaginable speed. They did not even manage to take a good glance at how he looked like. A cheetah looked in fear at Lu Shu's back view sprint into the forest and disappeared in a blink of an eye, then turned around and roared at the other animals, "Although I did not clearly see him, that should be the one who plucked my tooth." The other animals were relieved that he did not notice them. In fact, Lu Shu was also conflicted if watching the B-grade experts fight was more important or was plucking animals' teeth more important. It was a tough choice to make and Lu Shu felt that. Just as the animals were relieved, they suddenly saw that human running back. Of course, watching a fight was not as important as to stress values. Come, time is tight and the mission is important. Be obedient and don't move, Lu Shu said cheerfully. You, come over. Yes, you, don't hide behind. It's your turn. When it was the cheetah's turn, Lu Shu forced open its mouth and was shocked. Why are you missing a molar? It must be because you were being naughty and fought with your friends. Come, let me help you pluck the other one. It will look better paralleled and your face will look slimmer. After 5 minutes, the entire bunch of animals looked miserably at Lu Shu's back view as he left. The cheetah roared, "All of you have no rights to be miserable. My teeth have been plucked twice." Lu Shu sped up as he headed towards the battlefield. Honestly, he was not certain that it was Chen Bailey who was there. However, it was too far. Along the way, Lu Shu found another empty ground with Daoyuan class student and carefully made a detour around it. He was not too far from the battlefield when the students and teachers heard some movement in the forest. However, they did not dare to enter the forest to see what was going on and could only remain alert, ready for battle anytime. When Lu Shu was about to reach, he slowed down. By then, the fight had died down without a sound. Lu Shu thought for a bit and quickly took a bunch of branches to wrap around him as he would not know how to explain as to why the weird trees did not attack him if he bumped into anyone. This could be serious. If others did not think too much, it was not an issue, but if others suspected why Lu Shu was not attacked by the weird trees, it would be serious. Although his identity as a powerful metahuman was public, The problem was that in the Heavenly Network's records, his practice of the yin-yang kinship of the tree was just slow and not completely non-existent. Lu Shu slowly headed towards the battlefield with the branches wrapped around him. In the end, when he arrived, he was shocked to see that a forest the size of a football field was already in ruins. One by one, the weird trees collapsed while all the leaves became dull. It seemed as though the entire surface had been excavated several times until everything had been dug up. How fierce must the battle have been to create such a scene? Lu Shu took out the compass from his pocket and realized that its needle no longer pointed towards the core of the relics. Instead, it pointed to his left. He headed towards the left of the ruins. The collapsed trees hindered his vision, so he could only carefully search amongst the trees to see if he could find anything. The corpse of the dog in the celestial map was ready. If he bumped into the enemy, nothing else could bother him, as only a real expert could battle with Chen Bailey. All he would do was to fight immediately, and if he could not win, he would run. Just then, Lu Shu heard someone in front asked calmly, "How dare you to return again?" Lu Shu looked around but did not see anyone else around. Was it referring to him? That was Chen Bailey's voice. "I am Lu Shu, do you remember me? I am the Lu Shu who taught Li Ishiao proverbs." Lu Shu stood still as he feared that if he moved closer, he would be mistaken as someone else and be killed by the old Taoist priest. From Chen Bailey's distress, +313. "Come over." Chen Bailey's voice suddenly weakened. Lu Shu was stunned as the old Taoist priest was injured. The energetic voice he used just a while ago was just a show. Lu Shu crossed the large tree blocking his path and came in front of Chen Bailey. He saw the old Taoist priest sitting cross-legged and was extremely pale. The old Taoist priest also froze when he saw Lu Shu. The young man in front of him was wrapped in layers of tree branches like mummies. Was Lu Shu acting as a tree spirit? What kind of image was that? Lu Shu saw the old Taoist priest's look and laughed. "I heard some noise in the forest and came to help, but was attacked by those weird trees." Chen Bailey nodded and accepted the reason. He had seen how the weird trees attacked humans and had even saved some students in distress. Just that was too many tree branches. "Sir, who did you fight with causing such chaos?" Lu Shu finally asked his greatest question, curious to know if it was an animal in the relics or a human. A B-grade earth element metahuman from outside. He probably sneaked into the relics from underground, which was no feat for him. However, just now I pulled him out of the ground and fought with him, but he escaped from underground while I was not paying attention. "You don't need to worry, as he is more injured than me," Chen Bailey said calmly. Lu Shu was understanding those words, and for some reason, they seemed like what a child would say after a fight. "I may be injured, but he is way more injured." Deja vu. However, he did not dare to speak his mind, as based on the old Taoist priest's temper, he would probably kill Lu Shu on the spot if he spoke his mind. Chen Bailey said, "Guard me so that..." The person in front of him disappeared before he finished his words. That moment, Lu Shu saw a red poisonous snake peeking out from the ground beside him to see what was happening. Lu Shu immediately shouted, "Wait for a while." Then, Chen Bailey saw Lu Shu run towards the poisonous snake, held it at its head and plucked a tooth, then threw it out before returning to Chen Bailey. "What did you want to say?" Chen Bailey kept silent for a long while and thought of what he wanted to say. From Chen Bailey's distress, +199. What is wrong with you?
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty. Man, we just putting on a show. Try to look to the heavens to tell us things that we better.